Well, undoubtedly, Captain Cook's landing was the most significant turning point in our country's history. But once again, the radical left are calling for history to be ignored, with New Greens leader Adam Bandt attacking the commemorative program to mark the 250th anniversary of Captain Cook's landing. Here's what he said.
I don't think that this is an appropriate way to mark our history, because it's not being honest about the dark sides of Australia's history. And until we're honest about that and start telling the truth and start having a treaties with our First Nations people, then events like these are going to take us further away from the path of healing.
Of course, not all of our history following Captain Cook's arrival is good. Not all of it is bad, but it makes us who we are. If we lose our heritage, warts and all, we as a country no longer have a guide to understand where we come from, which sets the course for where we are going. This is precisely the position the left wants our country to be in, to abandon our heritage in order to pursue their own direction and agenda. As with any left-wing social agenda, the real purpose is to rewrite history and disassociate Australia from its British heritage. If you have any doubt about this, it was Karl Marx who said, "The first battlefield is the rewriting of history." Certainly, with British colonisation came attempted genocide, dispossession and dehumanisation of an Indigenous people for many years thereafter. These are undeniable truths that government is not walking away from and is looking at the 250th anniversary of the landing as a commemoration rather than the celebration that it was on the 200th anniversary. The Prime Minister has responded.
We have every year had an acknowledgement and a coming together of cultures ceremony. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's enabled the relationship and the reconciliation to continue to take place when we talk about our history.
Why is this commemoration so important? Because it was a defining event in the establishment of Australia, an Australia that is imbued with the rule of law, Judeo-Christian values and Western democratic systems that we inherited from Britain, because it is part of Australia's foundational history. And if we are intellectually honest here for a moment, any one of us who are not Indigenous are beneficiaries of colonisation. And if we cannot accept this, maybe we should all go back to where we came from. Mbenga, you have a different view.
Yes, I respectfully disagree, Karina. I mean, I think if we're going to have this conversation, an honest conversation, we need to really be truthful about the overall history. I mean, this notion that Captain Cook discovered Australia is just so outrageous. It's like, you know, this is my first time in this studio. I'm not going to claim that I discovered it, you know. So I think we need to start there and just sort of clear up any, you know, misunderstandings. But also, I think that there's Captain Cook's voyage comes with it marks a lot of pain for Indigenous Australians. You know, it marks a loss of culture, a loss of language, and a loss of country. And I think we need to be respectful of that. And let's not forget, Captain Cook was no saint. I mean, in New Zealand, there were 9 Maoris that were killed by his crew, you know, during his first arrival. So that also marks a lot of pain over there. So I think for a lot of Native people, his voyage marks pain, and I think we need to be respectful of that.
I'll agree with both of you a little bit. I'm not a fan of cancel culture, and I don't think we cancel people. We don't knock down statues. You know, a lot of people will say, cancel Captain Cook, cancel James Cook. He's not relevant. And to your point, he is relevant to our colonial history. But I'm also not a fan of revisionist history. So there are a few things. You know, he wrongly declared terra nullius. He apparently wasn't, in fact, an actual captain. He was never formally promoted. And the $60 million that's going to be spent over 4 years commemorating Captain Cook, I believe, could be better spent elsewhere. But also the voyage that they are recreating didn't in fact happen by him. It was Matthew Flinders who circumnavigated Australia. So I think, well, that's problematic. But also just the political and economic climate to spend $6.7 million on this journey off the back of the bushfires. And when we only spent we've contributed $2 million to medical research for a coronavirus vaccine. You know, so it's on the one end, I don't think we need to cancel Captain Cook out, but I certainly don't think we need to spend $60 million at a time when we're having conversations about whether we need to change the date of Australia Day. The political climate has changed. Indigenous voices are actually being heard and considered, and there are Indigenous voices in mainstream media for the first time, arguably, in our media's history. So I just think politically, economically, it's not the right time, but I also don't think we need to go knocking down his statue and pretending he never existed.